What's going on with your family? Torsten T's Guitars. Beautiful Sunday today up in New York. 65 degrees, man. Cheap and easy. Actually, the easiest and cheapest guitar mod, right? So, the cheapest guitar mod and the easiest guitar mod is on a guitar that you don't have to modify a whole bunch on. Like you should modify, well, I shouldn't say you should, but if you're looking to get a different tone out of a guitar, then you know that you would put new pickups in it and things like that. I think that's pretty much the only reason that you should have to modify a guitar, right? Do you have to modify it to make it work, to make it playable, to make it hold tune? Do the pickups sound like they're, I call it China-ish? They're real tinny, not a lot of output on them. They just sound like garbage. Or maybe those are single coils. Maybe they're humbuckers and they just sound like you're playing in a basement, something like that. I can understand modding a guitar that way. That should be the reason, but you shouldn't have to replace the tuners, the nut, the saddles, the bridge. You shouldn't have to do all that kind of stuff. You should be able to kind of just do a simple, maybe a loaded pick guard drop in, or just get some pickups, and if you know how to solder, you can solder those and do that. Modding guitars is a lot of fun, but there's some confusion apparently about modding guitars and fixing guitars. I belong to a lot of these guitar groups, and I don't go in there under my own name, and they're my competitors' guitar groups. They're the fan pages of these other guitar companies, because I want to see what's going on, and I can tell you that I haven't seen any real difference in the last 2 years. It's kind of like you spend almost, let's just say you spend $200 on a guitar, and if you want to buy just all the cheap stuff, then you're looking at probably $40 for some tuners, 35 to 40 bucks for some saddles, and another 30 bucks for pickups. Right? That's what you're spending. So you got your $200 guitar. You're now in at $310. If you know how to set up guitars and do all that stuff, that's not that bad. It's not that bad. It doesn't take that long to do any of that stuff, and that's pretty cool to be in a $200 guitar, $310. And what I hear from these people is, yeah, and it plays like, all I had to do was this, and this, and now it plays like, a $400 guitar. I probably should have bought a $400 guitar. You wouldn't have done any of that, right? I'm just saying, man, there's a difference to that. So I think a guitar should have really good tuners on it. I think that the bridge should be stable. And here's a novel idea for guitar manufacturers. Put a pickup in it that sounds good. That's what we do. We put a pickup in it that sounds good. I can tell you that if you mod a guitar the right way, right? Good tuners, good pickups, maybe a good bridge, that's going to run you $400 or $500. And the reason I know that is because we've got a $250 guitar up there for like $750 right now. It's a SBH that it's all blacked out, but it's it's got either the Red Devil bridge pickup with a vintage stack in it, and that's a $230, $240 after tax and everything. You're looking at like $265 for just the pickup set. And then we put a $60 bridge in there, a Kaish bridge in there. We put D'Addario auto trim tuners in there. Those are $79. You know what I mean? If you want to mod a guitar and you want to have a $1,000 guitar or something that just is absolutely perfect, then you're gonna spend some money doing that. I mean, I can put $13 pickups in. I don't see people taking our pickups out of our guitars, because we really spend a lot of time putting them together and making sure that they don't sound China-ish, and making sure that if it's a humbucker, it doesn't sound like you're playing it in a bathtub in a basement, all muffled. They've got really good tones to them, but if you want a different tone, I completely understand modding one of our guitars. I absolutely do. But the easiest one to mod is the one that you don't have to mod at all. Like I said, though, unless you're looking for a certain tone. Again, when we build a guitar, we try to give it all the tones that we can, like that SBH that we have. That's a blues guitar, that's a jazz guitar, it's still got a lot of twang to it, So it's you can, it's a chicken picking guitar too, but it's also a classic rock or a heavy metal guitar too. And it's a high gain guitar with that high output humbucker in the bridge. So you're getting three guitars in one. What else can you ask for? You really can't ask for much more than that. But anyways, getting back to these other companies again. All I had to do was this. All I had to do was that, and all I had to do. I don't think they're modding the guitars. I think that they're making them playable. They're making them playable. Some other companies, you buy a guitar from them, and let's say it's $200, and then you get 30 days worth of lessons. Well, what good is 30 days worth of lessons if they're going to send you a guitar and the action on it's over 3 millimeters? You ain't going to be practicing for 30 days, and your 30 days is up in 30 days, right? You're going to have to take that in. If you don't know how to do setups, if you don't know how to do mods, if you don't know how to do these things, and maybe you're a beginner, and modding's fun, but not everybody knows how to do it. Not everybody has a soldering gun, right? You got to kind of have a soldering gun in order to do pickups. Back in the day, we used to just wind them with their fingers and put some electrical tape on there. You can't do that anymore. People frown upon that, But guitars should be set up when you get them, right? They should be. You should have a general setup on every guitar that you get. We ship our guitars to New York. We pride ourselves in taking the extra. Believe it or not, man, it only takes about 50. We pay for a setup in China, okay? And so when the guitars come in, there's really not a whole lot to do on the setup, but we reset the guitars up before we ship them out to you. And I'm not going to say, it's a full-blown setup on a $145 guitar. But the action's right, the string action's right, your pickups aren't, crashed into there should be no loose screws or anything like that on your guitar when you get it. It should have been gone over. The nut is always going to be cut the same. There's no highs or lows in that. They're not hand cut, they're machine cut. So if they're either all bad or they're all good, and we check them before we release the production to make sure that they're going to all be good. Our tuners, we use 18-to-1 tuners, whether they're locking tuners or standard tuners, they're still 18-to-1. People go, oh, how do you know that? Well, what you do, you would just take like a toothpick and you would put it in there, and you'll see that if you turn that, you just get a mark where you start at, it's going to take you 18 revolutions in order to get back to point A, right? From point A to point A, it's going to take 18 full revolutions on our tuners. So what we write down on our specs is actually what you get on the guitars. The bone nut, I don't suggest that you do it, but just take my word for it, it's a bone nut. A lot of people have synthetic bone nuts. We have a real bone nut. So if you were to take a synthetic nut and you were to take a hot iron or even a paper clip and put it on your oven and you touch your nut with it, if it's not a bone nut, it'll sink into that. It'll sink into your nut, and then you'll have ruined your guitar. So don't do that. Well, it's not ruined, but it looks ugly. Ours, it burns, right? It's not going to sink into the nut. It's just going to leave a little burn mark on it. That means it's a bone nut. So I don't know, man. Our saddles are really good. I've done videos on them. Our saddles, our bridges. Saddle's part of the bridge. And I put a tuner on there, and I hit the whammy bar a few times. And it's a brand new guitar. A lot of people don't know this too about bridges, right? It won't stay in tune because the whammy bar. Well, it's got brand new strings on it, so you got to stretch the strings out. That's one thing. But it's not just the strings; it's the springs. Springs have to actually kind of get worn out a little bit too until they find their spot, right? A new spring, and then a week later, if you just sit there and hammer on that thing for 200 times, your springs are gonna be fine. But until you do that, expect your guitar to go out of tune. Just expect it, because that's what's going to happen. The springs don't always go back identical when they're brand new. They're not worked out yet. They're not worked out, whatever you want to call it. I don't know, man. We just do things a little bit different here, Yeah, if you like to mod guitars, like I said, there's nothing wrong with modding a guitar. We give you a swimming pool route on our ST1. We give you a swimming pool route. No, it's not a swimming pool route, but it's as close as you're going to get. It's we've got the middle and the bridge area routed out for you. There's a humbucker already in the bridge, and I'm sorry, the middle and the neck is that's an open route for you to drop in whatever you want to drop in there, and it'll all fit. You can put a couple of humbuckers with P90, whatever you want in any of our guitars. So keep that in mind when you're modding a guitar. Are you modding a guitar that's again, you buy a guitar for $100 or $150, and then you put another 150 into it. You're in at 300. Don't go bragging that it plays like a $300-400 guitar. Yeah, it should. That's what you put into it. But if you take something that's got good bones, is what we call it, right? If it's a good bass, solid guitar, good tuners, good nut, good frets, nice neck, good body, right? A full thickness body. We use all full thickness bodies on our guitar. They're a little heavier, and the reason they're heavier is because they're thicker. That's why they're heavier. If you hold my guitar up against a Squier, you're gonna be like, this thing feels like like a boat anchor, but it's not. It's just the Squier it's a thinner guitar, which also makes it harder to mod, right? Because you can't get full size stuff in there and just without routing it out. You don't have to do that with our stuff. All the cavities are nice and deep. So keep that in mind when you're modding a guitar. I think that's it, man. You want to spend some money on modding a guitar, like I said, and we're starting to get into that too. Just so you know, we have a mod shop set up, and the labor rates are like silly if you don't know how to do that. But give our pickups a shot in that ST1 especially. I know that there's a channel out there that's actually modding one of their cheap guitars. Well, they're around the same price as our ST1 is, but they're taking the ST1 pickups out of that guitar because they wanted to put some dual humbuckers in there, which they did without an issue. But they're taking those pickups because they're that nice, and they're putting them in one of their other budget guitars to make it sound better. That's kudos to T's Guitars for that, man. That you can take your budget pickups out and put them in another guitar to make them sound better than what they got. I had another customer that bought a first generation ST guitar from us when it was just the T's ST, and then he bought an ST1 third generation. He actually got like six. Thanks, Ricky. Like six of our guitars, and he put some humbuckers in this new one, and he took those pickups out and he put them in his first generation because the first generation, these generation pickups are better than the first generation. We try to make our guitars as good as we can. We're kind of at the top of the line with keeping them within the budget without spending that extra X amount of dollars on pickups to make them like a Seymour Duncan pickup or something like that. We can put those in the mod shop, but and the guitars come to you set up again. Being playable out of the box is a big deal. Another thing I wanted to touch on real quick before I let you guys go is the weather right now, right? Well, a couple of things, UPS and the weather. UPS right now is atrocious. They've got a bunch of seasonal workers. It happens every year. We try to pack these things as well as we possibly can. The Tele guitars that we sell, they come double box. The ST1s, they come single box. The boxes are expensive. I'd have to, if I double box those ST1s, it'd be another $10 on top of that, because that's what the boxes cost, $9 a box for printed boxes. So we're not doing that, but just if it gets banged around a little bit, let it acclimate. But if it does get banged around, chances are you may have to reset it up. Give us a call and we'll get one of our technicians on a Zoom call with you. If it is banged around that much, if you know how to do it, great. It shouldn't be a big deal. But the weather's another issue too. It's starting to get cold again, and we set these guitars up. We don't set them up outside. So when you get your guitar and it lands on your porch, if you take it out of the box and play it and just pick it up and go, wow, this thing's out of whack, it's probably going to be out of whack for the first 24 hours. Just let it sit for it before you make any adjustments. And the only adjustment that you should have to make in order to, let's say, we'll call it reset up your guitar, is the truss rod. That's it. It's just going to affect it's going to affect your neck. The weather, the cold, the humidity is going to affect your neck a little bit. So if you were to turn that a little bit this way or a little bit that way, depending on where you live, you should be right back in. The saddles aren't going to move on you. The action's already set and all that other good stuff. But if the action's a little high, chances are that the neck is a little bit bowed, or you've got some back bow, and if you can hear some fret buzz and things like that. But that's not the setup. That's the weather. So let it acclimate. It should come right back to where it was when we sent it out to you, and be assured that when we sent it out to you, it was right. It was high and tight, bro. That we make sure that they're high and tight before you guys get them and playable, very playable. But again, if you need to do that, if you're scared to do that, give us a call. We'll set an appointment with one of our technicians on a Zoom call, and we'll walk you through that too. It's the simplest thing in the world to do. So I hopefully this has been a little bit informative for you guys, and it was for me when I was thinking about it. So as always, family, rock on, man.